question for all of you. What's hotter than the emotions of South Carolina and Ole Miss fans being stumped a college football playoff spot right now? I'll save you the trouble. You weren't going to guess it anyways. The transfer portal. A ton of names have already entered looking for their next destination in 2025. There's a bowl game afoot, but no, we can't stick around here. We got to do what's best for us, and more power to you. Now, we all know that the transfer portal doesn't open up officially until the Monday after conference championship, which means teams have to wait to actually speak to all of these players that are looking for their new home. Pause for the irony here. Regardless, there's going to be a ton of players that currently are looking for destinations in the SEC, and we actually at the channel are going to be doing series on certain players that we think fit the criteria of being all-stars. But I figured let's just go through some of the top names that you should know that could be looking for a destination in the conference that just means more. So welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. It's Cole Thompson here. Make sure that you like the video, smash that ring notification, and hit subscribe because we talk college football every single day. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. If you want to follow me, and trust me, I respond to almost every single one of you, it's at Mr. Cole Thompson on all the platforms. And check out all of our great work found at secunfiltered.com. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at RHOBACK. Go to RHOBACK.com and use the promo code SECU for 20% off your first purchase. And let's be real, the holiday seasons are right around the corner. You want to give somebody a gift that keeps on giving, a RHOBACK pullover, a RHOBACK fleece, a RHOBACK hoodie during the cold winter months. Definitely one that you won't want to pass up. Promo code SECU at RHOBACK.com. Connor Wigman has entered the transfer portal, the Texas A&M quarterback. Now, most of you probably remember him from his successful win against LSU in 2022. And for most of you, you also probably remember this was the #1 quarterback prospect during that cycle. This is another scenario where it just is a bad fit in the certain offense, two sides that don't see eye to eye. I talked to some people around the program. It was very much a mutual decision per se, more so a thanks for giving me an opportunity. Thank you for stabilizing our program when we had a brand new head coach in play. This doesn't mean that Texas A&M is hitching all of its wagon to Marcel Reed for 2025. In fact, I will be very shocked if they don't go into the portal and bring in somebody to up the competition to run Colin Klein's offense. But there is going to be no shortage for a destination when it comes to a player like Connor Wigman. The potential is there. You talk to NFL people, they actually believed at the start of the year he may be the most talented prospect of all the passers that are in the SEC. And yes, the SEC could be paying attention to him. Mississippi State could be paying attention to him. Kentucky, if they want to go down the same pathway of years past, maybe paying attention to him. Missouri, I think, should definitely be paying attention to him. And there's a couple of other programs that probably are at least going to sense the feelers around and see if he fits there. And there'll be other teams as well. Syracuse potentially being one, Michigan being one, another team in the Big Ten, maybe in Indiana per se. He's going to have some offers. It just was not a good fit. Another not good fit at this point, definitely Jackson Arnold. Arnold has entered the transfer portal. It is a done deal. The Sooners are going to be looking for a new passer. And if you watch the video talking about who was just hired as their offensive coordinator, I promise you, Arbuckle is probably already on the phone with John Mateer saying, hey, Norman's got some pretty good locations for some bar scenery and whatnot. Maybe you should come on down here instead of going to Columbia. So that might be a done deal over there. But for Arnold, it's a guy that, once again, bad system, not the right fit for the style of offense that they want to run, now getting a fresh start elsewhere. The obvious answer is he going to join forces down with Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State? I'm not entirely sure at this point. Michael Van Buren did enough to where I think that there's some potential. I think that you at least have to view your options in this standpoint. He is a talented player. You don't get a 5-star rating coming out of Denton Guyer High School. And those of you that know the Lone Star State know about Denton Guyer. You don't get that type of marquee signature if you are an overrated player. So there will be a team that says he beat Alabama. He was able to go ahead and have a great performance in the game against the Crimson Tide, and they're in the college football playoff. So maybe just a really bad fit for the style of system that he was in. Miller Moss, another guy in the portal. Yeah, the USC quarterback waited his time, bided things out, and said, I'm going to be the reason why USC is back in the college football playoff conversation. Not Caleb. And if you go back and you remember his first game against Louisville last year in the Holiday Bowl, there was optimism. And then it carried on over to Las Vegas when they played against LSU, and there was a lot of optimism. And then, unfortunately, there was a ton of problems that went on with USC. He kind of was the scapegoat for Lincoln Riley, blaming all the personnel on him. Really good performance in the game against Michigan. It just was his defense couldn't get the job done, and they lost that performance. he's going to be, I think, a sought after candidate. In fact, if I am Kirby Moore out in Columbia, I'm probably on the phone right now. I'm probably making multiple phone calls to his people because I can't speak to him personally. Feels like that if you're Missouri, you're Kentucky, if you're maybe even a team, I don't know, like a Ole Miss per se, and don't entirely trust that Austin Simmons is the right answer right now, you maybe want to go after him. This may be the only time where, hey, a Lincoln Riley quarterback leaves your system and he gets better, like almost immediately, because he only got 1 year of eligibility. It's not like Spencer Rattler, who had multiple years to be able to right the ship over time. Another quarterback, Caden Salter. I think that we all kind of guess on where he may potentially land because of his relationship with Hugh Freeze, the offense personnel. That's a team that's going to be setting the market, I think, for quarterbacks in the offseason. I'm not sure if you paid attention this past year. Not a good season for the Flames. Honestly, probably one of the more underwhelming seasons for the Flames. And that's saying a lot because last year they were sticking out their chest after winning Conference USA and believing that they belong in the college football playoff as an undefeated roster to proceedingly lose outright in dominant fashion to an Oregon squad in the Fiesta Bowl. Regardless, this is a quarterback that did throw for nearly 3,000 yards last year. He had over 30 plus touchdowns and was a really good fit as a mobile quarterback that was willing to utilize his legs. Hugh Freeze is probably the first phone call that we can guess. I'm not going to rule out other programs. I think Ole Miss would be a really interesting fit if Caden Salter wanted to potentially go there. Those are the quarterbacks I think that you definitely have to know. There's definitely some wide receivers you have to know. Micah Hudson, former 5+ star wide receiver from Temple, Texas, 6'3". Guy basically makes every single ball an 80-20 versus a 50-50. I can tell you, I've spoken to some people around the Lone Star State. The first thing is he went to Texas Tech because he thought he was going to have a lot of playing time. That wasn't the case. He wants to go play immediately and be an X factor. The other thing is that I'm not entirely sure that just because if he is near Austin, Texas, that's the only location. In fact, if I were to be a betting man, I would say that there is a thumbs up that if there is a program in the state of Texas that's going to get him, it isn't the Burnt Orange. Kind of catch my drift. But he is looking for playing time. Tennessee, I think, could be in the play. I think Florida could be in the play with DJ Lagway. Again, those are two that come from the same state. Maybe you use that Lone Star loyalty to carry on over to Gainesville in the Swamp, and that becomes your new number one receiver. I don't know if Micah Hudson can be a number one receiver. I can tell you Kevin Concepcion can be the NC State wide receiver that recently entered the portal. See, here's the thing. I know a lot about NC State. I think most of you, especially if you're in volunteer country, know I know a lot about NC State because I talked about them making it a close game out in Charlotte. And the reason why was because of you had a wide receiver in Kevin Concepcion. Down year for the Wolfpack. I got to be completely honest. Swing and a miss on my part. But it was a swing and a miss because of the quarterback play, not the wide receiver play. This was the all ACC freshman of the year just 2 years ago. And the asking price has gone up because of what he provides in stability as a route runner, as a playmaker, surefire hands, his mismatched communication, whether it be in the slot or on the outside. Tennessee, if they want to go ahead and build up with Nico Imaliava, should be in consideration for him. Texas A&M, Texas should be in consideration for him. And speaking of Texas right now, Jonte Cook, probably the first name that you should remember, is also in the portal. This was a guy that last year was going to take over for Xavier Worthy as the new number one down in Austin. And unfortunately, things went south pretty quickly. Isaiah Bond stepped on up and Matthew Golden stepped on up. And you watched as Ryan Wingo played a big role. And then Cooked was kind of cooked as the number one receiver. There are rumors that he may be crossing enemy lines, if you can catch my drift. There is definitely a gig'em feel around a guy like Jonte Cook at this point. But that doesn't mean that he is the only player that's going to be there. Same for CJ Daniels, the LSU wide receiver. He is under the transfer portal. Definitely an underwhelming year in sense of what you believed he was going to be when he came on in from Liberty. But also, let's throw in the fact that when he was at Liberty, 1,000-yard playmaker. So you know that there is some potential for him to be a plug-and-play immediate number 2 wide receiver, complementary piece. There was a wide receiver by the name of Theo Wees who went to a rival school after an unsuccessful tenure during his time at Oklahoma. And he ended up being one of the better wide receivers in the SEC for the last 2 years. Maybe that's Daniels going into next year. A name that's flying under the radar that I think deserves a little bit more love We see this every single offseason. How about FIU's receiver Eric Rivers, 5'11", 175. He totaled 62 catches for over 12, nearly 1,200 yards, 12 touchdowns last year. FIU has been one of these programs that you'll see one or two guys like come out of nowhere. Rivaldo Fairweather for Auburn actually got his start there and then became a cyborg for the Auburn offense. Funny enough, Auburn is losing a wide receiver that they got in the transfer portal in Keandre Lambert-Smith. Maybe they could benefit from it. This, again, is a guy that I think could fit very well for a place like Oklahoma. This guy that I think could fit very well in a place like Columbia, Missouri, or even Columbia, South Carolina. So definitely somebody that you need to keep your eye on for. Big speed, big catch radius. He is somebody that I think deserves to have some conversations about being a part of any personnel that is looking to bolster up their wide receiver core. A defensive player. See, I'm not just going to focus in on the offensive names. How about a guy, Trotter? You probably know that last name, Josiah Trotter. Yeah, his brother played at Clemson, and his dad also played in the NFL, Jeremiah Trotter Sr., the West Virginia linebacker. He is going to be in the portal now. Last season, 80-plus tackles. I think he had 3 sacks on the season, if I'm not mistaken. He also had 4 tackles for losses, 1 interception. Had a conversation about potentially being an all Big 12 representative. If you're in need of a middle linebacker, I think that this is probably the way you want to look. This is somebody that you may want to target. And it may not be at a place like Alabama because you get 5 stars coming in left and right. It may not be at a place like LSU because if you're looking to better in your transfer portal rankings with guys from bigger programs. But if you're in Arkansas, if you're South Carolina, if you're Florida for that instance, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, I would definitely have Trotter at probably the top of your rankings. This is somebody that is a plug-and-play starter with multiple years of experience. Something that you need because of what you lost in the transfer portal this offseason. Oh, Mark Stoops. This is probably what you want to bring in for a replacement like Jamon Dumas-Johnson. Let me know in the comment section down below who are some players that I've missed, who are some players that you think could eventually be bigger names. We're going to do a series talking about where some of these players belong in the race. So like, rate, review, subscribe. Make sure that you're following us on all the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson and check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. And just remember, nobody can be tampering in the transfer portal at this time. Yeah, because we've all heard that before. I am Cole Thompson. Peace.